I'm thinking more of like an 18-inch. I don't want to go too big. What do you think?
I think 18 is perfect. That
Yeah.
way you can pick a little bit of a, you can get a shorter sidewall, but not rubber band sidewall.
Right. Yeah, and you have enough sidewall where you can go down the highway and not feel like you're getting your liver kicked out of yourself.
Yeah. Hey, welcome back to the channel. We are back working on Derek Pierre's OBS truck, aka Z sled with a pickup bed. And of course the pickup bed is gone, but we've got some cleanup work to do before we can put things back on. I just wanted to say thanks for subscribing if you have, and thanks for hitting the like button if you want notifications of upcoming episodes, because we got some cool stuff coming up. Make sure you're subscribed and make sure you hit the notification bell, and that way it comes right to your channel. So obviously we've got the new Ride Tech suspension on the back. The truck is squat and it's kind of stupid. We've still got to put the suspension system on the front, but the back is done and it looks great. And the rest of the frame looked great until we put these brand new suspension parts on it. So what we're going to be doing today is just a little bit of quick cleanup on here, you know, scuff and get everything looking good. I'll throw a coat of rattle can paint on here and just get it looking nice and ready for that bed to go back on. And we're also going to address a couple of things here. We put the AMD tubs here to get some wheel and tire clearance.
Certainly gives you that idea of what it's meant to be, you know, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And right on the bottom of that line is where it's to weld down, which is burn it straight down there.
Yep, perfect. Because Derek wants a big fat footprint on this truck, so it's kind of a cool project. Use the brand new wheel tubs, and there's a seam here, so I'll walk you through doing a nice looking seam there. We'll get the rubber marbles off from the unfortunate loss of traction. And just kind of dress up these welds and make it look pretty. It's also good to have Derek swing by every once in a while and check out the progress on the truck while he's off gallivanting, doing his own adventures. But it's good to be on the same page when it's actually his truck. This is the back side of the tub. I've got to dress this. I'm going to put some seam sealer, but the whole bottom is going to go with a like a bed liner.
Yeah.
This is the only thing that has to be cut out of here, that middle bar. And it's
Is that
fine.
for the third member?
Yes,
basically?
that's
Yeah.
for that lateral support bar, just to get it out of the way. And I cut 3-4 inches off of it anyways, so.
Right.
But,
very cool.
yep.
Look at all the rubber.
I don't know how that got.
Yeah, it's like
I
someone
gotta
did
stop
some
saying
cookies
I
or
don't know how
something.
that got there. Yeah, but I actually do know how it got there.
Well, maybe you could fill this in, just another set of tires. You just.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Permanent seal.
Yeah. Well, dude, thanks for making the trip down here. I wanted you to see this in midstream and see how cool it was, and yeah, it's going to be lower than that, but not in the weeds. We don't want it dragging frame. It's not what it's about.
No, the sporty look, kind of the street truck look, I think is what we're going for. But it's an adjustable coilover, right? So there's some room there. We can play with it and have some fun. And
this cross sill has to go away because the suspension system takes up the real estate that this occupies. I've trimmed off the ends anyway. It's not going to affect the strength of the truck floor because the cross member itself actually will help support this, and we've got another surprise on the inside of the bed as well. So lots of prep work to do here, some trimming to get rid of that piece, but we're going to start on the truck frame. So the way this is going to work is that I'm going to get it up in the air. I'm going to use Walker Texas Ranger and lift it up to a comfortable working height so I'm not on my hands and knees. Speaking of this, I call it Walker Texas Ranger because there's a funny story. Sometime with enough adult beverage in me, I'll tell you that story. But this came to me from a dear friend, and it's got a special place on top of the fact that it's the best floor jack I've ever had. This thing is from the 1940s and it works perfectly. So before I go down the rabbit hole, I've got a question for you. Please put it in the comments below. Would you keep the patina on this thing? Would you keep it just like it is, or would you restore it? I've had a couple of guys say, hey, why don't you restore that old jack and make it look great? I could, but I don't know, man. It's just, this is original. This came from the Pratt Brothers garage in Nashville, who used to service moonshine running cars in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. And, you know, I don't know. I don't know whether to keep it like it is or spruce it up a little bit. Meantime, it kind of kicks butt and it works great. It's a quick lift. So we're going to get this guy up in the air, throw some jack stands under it, and get it to a more comfortable working height. But let me know what you think. All right, so I've talked myself into a little bit more work. I've got the truck lifted up by the shock absorber mounts that are on the rear axle, and they look like poo. So I'm going to jack this up from a point a little bit further north, and we're going to trim those. We're going to trim the shock mounts off too. Also, all right, there's the limit of the jack. So since I'm trying to make this thing look nice, I decided to pull the spare tire carrier off, as well as there's a rear cross member that holds the shaft, yeah, I said shaft, of the spare tire carrier into the frame rail. So we took all of that stuff off and tried to just open up some more space to get not only the spray can in there to properly spray it, but also to clean up the look of it if anybody ever happens to look underneath this thing. It happens. It's another good reason to wear eye protection. All right, so I want to grind off what's left of the shock brackets off the axle housing. That jacket's hot. So I'm going to be using destruction devices down here. I've got a flap wheel and a midi flap wheel. And I'm just going to grind it flush. That way it'll disappear in the satin black paint that's going to go on the rest of it. And it'll make a clean spot on the axle. So that's good. I need glasses that are right here. And this. And these in, because it's loud. And this. And this. I had to reset all of these because my cousins have huge heads. I don't know. I can't explain it. Of course, this isn't awkward at all. Having to reach in behind all the stuff, which is why I have a shield on, because it's going to shoot sparks every dang where. So anyway, here we go. Well, that was fun. So we've got axles ground smooth. I had to move this brake line out of the way. When you want to do that, you want to do it carefully. There's two tabs, one here and one here. And I'm going to try and tap that back into place gently without a hammer. I'm using the screwdriver handle. It's not a hammer. It's not a hammer, but a hammer might pinch that brake line, so we're not going to do that. We're going to ask the brake line to move slowly in behind there. And again, tapping it down gently, and that's going to pinch it and hold it in place. This vent tube, once I'm done painting, I'll figure a way to, there's even a convenient bracket on there. I'll just attach it to one of these bolts and zip tie the rest out of the way, and we're going to be going to now. I'm ready for cleanup. That was a lot of grinding. I think that's a Miley Cyrus song. It's the grind. No, it's not. Why do I know Miley Cyrus songs? I know why, because she's a bad to the bone singer. That's why. So anyway, I'm going to sweep the floor because there's 17 pounds of grinding dust on the floor and all over everywhere. In my high school shop class at Southern Okanagan Senior Secondary School, we had forges. And we used to make our shop teacher so mad because we would sweep up the grindings, the filings off the floor, open the door of the forge and chuck a handful in there and it would go whoosh. It would look like a blast furnace, and he used to get so mad because it was so stupid. Anyway, things that come up. All right, so with everything prepped from a grinding perspective, let's talk about cleaning. The frame and this, they're not that dirty, but they're not that clean either. So we've got all forms of contamination here. We've got the rubber marbles, we've got oxidation from the welding, some soot in here. We're going to throw a bit of seam sealer in there. This is just general crust, although it's pretty clean. This right here, I believe that that's due to, that's where the fuel port is, the fuel door is like here. Hello, hello. And I think this is just contamination from fuel vapor, things like that. Anyway, the rest of this here is right where the differential is. Maybe there was a diff seal, a pinion seal that was going bad or something like that, but look at that. You can't paint over that. You can't do anything over that. So essentially what we're doing is we're putting a spray and bed liner on this. The same rules apply for adhesion for any coating, whether it's rattle can or professional products or whatever it is. You got to have a clean surface before the paint will stick. And then you got to have an abraded surface, sand scratches, before the paint will stick too, unless you're doing chemical wet on wet, and that's a whole other thing. We're not going down that rabbit hole here, but we are going to clean. So here's some cleaning supplies that I'm going to use. I've kind of fallen in love with this stuff. It is a multi-purpose citrus cleaner from Griot's, and it is a bad to the bone degreaser. Citrus cleaners are no joke. Yes, it smells minty fresh like an orange. Well, would an orange be minty fresh? Rephrase. Yes, it smells citrusy. Thus the name citrus cleaner. But it's super strong. And it's a good cleaner. I've also got some brake parts cleaner and my trusty wax and grease remover from my Body Shop Supplies. I'm going to use a combination of brushes and scuffing pads. You'll notice right here that I don't have brand new scuffing pads out. These things are really great. They still have abrasive quality. These have been used and they're contaminated for a fresh paint job or for scuffing a bumper cover or something like that, or for using for classrooms or videos, but they're still good. So I keep these in a box. So I've got a bunch of used ones. That's going to be part of my cleaning regimen. So then once we get everything clean, we're going to use some big boy tools and get the rubber off, get any dirt contamination off. We're going to start with this guy. This is a bed abrasion brush. It's from a company called Al's Bedliners or Al's Cleaners. I'll put the description and the link in the description, and I'll give you guys a clue. But this is an abrasive wheel, and it works really, really great. I've got this fiber wheel, and of course we got the wire brush on ancient rotary tools. I've got the wire brush on the electric drill. I'm going to be wearing eye protection with that because these like to sling off little pieces of wire. Again, handheld wire brush. Once we get it abraded, then what we're going to be doing is putting a bead of seam sealer down here because we've got our tub and we've got an overlap seam and plug welds from the top, or actually it's a seam weld from the top. So we're going to clean the heck out of that and put a nice, probably ½ inch wide bead of seam sealer down there, and Bob will be our uncle, and then we'll do the spray in bed liner, which is going to be this U-Pole Raptor liner. I've been using this stuff for a long time. I was turned on to this by Tim Strange from the professional hot rodding industry. Tim is a very well-known car builder, and if you're doing a driver Raptor liner, spray and bed liner, it's a urethane bed liner. It's not soft like the Line-X or the vulcanized liners, but it's a very, very strong coating, and it looks cool. It's a satin finish, and it looks great. So we're going to be using Raptor. They also have an application gun that I'm going to be using, and it's super simple. It's got an adjustable tip. It's a round cone. It's not a flat pattern, but you can make it larger or smaller depending on the texture that you want. So you put your hardener in here, shake it, and shoot it. That's their slogan. We're going to be doing a lot of shaking and shooting, and we're going to put Raptor liner on the bottom of the bed. Then while that's drying, we're going to go over to the chassis and put a nice satin finish on that with rattle cans. Yeah, I said it, spray cans. So for this one right here, I think just the wax and grease remover is going to take care of it. I am going to use a scuffing pad, so I get a dual purpose. I'm scratching it up at the same time as I'm getting that whatever petroleum contamination off of it. And the wax and grease remover stays wet a long time. That's why it's such a great cleaning solvent for paint jobs. But for this purpose, it doesn't dry out very fast. It stays wet long enough for me to get that schmutz off of there. That's working great. So if you don't have a traditional body shop wax and grease remover on hand, on speed dial, like I do, because let's face it, it's my main cleaner for body shop stuff. I'm going to have it. I'm going to have gallons of it, honestly. That you can go to either a home center or you can go to a Tractor Supply store and you can get a product called naphtha, N-A-P-T-H-A. Naphtha is a mild solvent, and it does much the same as this solvent does, in that it stays wet a long time and allows you to do a really nice job cleaning, and it gets rid of solvent contamination. So there's a little, what do they call that, an Easter egg? Okay, there's one for you. All right, so that's coming up nicely. Good. All right, you can see that that stain is no longer there. So since that's working so great, I'm going to try it down here. See if it gets rid of that fuel. Oh, look at that. Kinda. Yep, kinda lots. Soak a little bit. And obviously with any type of an airborne anything, you want to use it in a well-ventilated area, which we have here. The shop's air-conditioned because I'm old and I can't work in a non-air-conditioned shop anymore. I can, I just don't want to. Stains gone. Okay, so this worked fine. I needed to pull out the big guns down here. It was really, really ground in, and it looked like it was almost surface rusty. And I used the citrus cleaner. Remember I said citrus cleaners are no joke? It took the paint off down to the factory E-coat sealer. But look how clean it is. It's super nice and clean. And the fact that I chased it with a scuffing pad now means that it has a mechanical tooth, a key for you UK folks. It has a nice key in it for the coating to stick. So we're pretty much clean, and I'm going to run over with a Big Al's Bedliner brush as well just to get any stuff. I don't feel like that's really crusty, although I think the rest of it I can get dry. I don't see any other chemical stains, and we're about 30% in, and I'm sweaty and borderline disagreeable already. All right, so that was fun. No, it wasn't, but look how clean the surface is. And, yeah, again, I used the big guns. I used a citrus cleaner. The rubber particles, they kind of gave me a fit. They were locked in there. Even the citrus cleaner wouldn't take them out without some push behind it. So I got in there, of course, with the big rotary tools and the scuffing pads, and that's completely on me. But we won't go down that rabbit hole. But everything else is clean. I'm happy with it. I've abraded all the stuff. Incidentally, if you drag race or if you want to do a smoky burnout and you're worried about these marbles etching into your paint, because they will etch into your paint. They're super hot. They're like 1,000 degrees coming off the tire. It's molten rubber. And it'll stick into your paint on your quarter panels and your wheelhouses. So I learned this. It's an off-road trick. But if you use Pam cooking spray and you spray all in and around your wheelhouses, the bottoms of your quarter panels, I've seen guys use masking tape to protect from the marbles. Pam cooking spray. It doesn't look bad. It looks a little hazy, but it'll keep that stuff from sticking to your inner wheelhouses and things like that. Did I know that before I did the burnouts in this truck? Yes, I did. Had I forgotten it because I was blind, stupid, crazy, in lust for lost traction? Yeah, so again, totally on me. But we got it clean just because you can. The only other thing I'm going to do is if you take a look in here, you still see a little bit of soot in around there from the weld, even though the Owl's brush did a nice job of getting in there. If you look real close in there, you can see down in there, and I'm going to run a bead of seam sealer in there just to keep from moisture intrusion. That's a big fancy word. But I want that clean so the seam sealer is going to stick. So I'm going to use this wire brush on a wheel and get in there and do my best diligence, and that's the last thing I'm going to do. Then we'll run some seam sealer in there and, yeah, move forward. Who knew? Cleaning, it's so important, man. It just is. The comments that I get from you guys are details, 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 details. If I had done this like a TV show and shot the last 2 square feet of the Bedliner going, ooh, doesn't that look great? Now let's move on to the next thing else. It robs you guys of the preparation steps, and it's not lying, it's just not telling all of the truth. The truth is I've been at this for an hour and a half. No big deal. I got sweaty. It's all right. I got a shower at home. So, yeah, it just takes work, and I'm happy to show you the steps. And keep in the comments. Keep posting down below what you want to see, how much you want to see. I had one guy tell me that he was tired of watching me vacuum. Well, you know what? A clean shop is a happy shop. I'm going to vacuum, and I'm going to show you vacuuming sometime. So anyway, I'm going to get in here, and I am going to wear my shield because those things like to shed wires. P, P, and E. Oh, yeah. Look at the job that's doing. See, look how much better that looks. Don't you feel better about that? I feel better about that. See? It's the little things. That was a Bob Ross moment. All right, so speaking of rabbit holes and deals and details, look here, look what else the wire brush did. It flaked off the paint that was burnt from the welding process. Now, I would have sprayed that Bedliner over top of that, and it would have stuck to the burnt paint, but not necessarily the metal. So, clean. I'm not going to tape the seam around here. I'm just going to fill it in with the seam sealer that I've got, but I am going to tape this because somebody might be looking up underneath it, and I want it to look nice, and I want as much of the bare metal that's exposed to be covered up. Also, the seam sealer is a compatible surface for the spray and bed liner. However, bare metal is not. If you've got large expanses of bare metal, you want to use an epoxy coating to put your spray and bed liners on. That'll make great adhesion. But for this, well, I'm going to do a little bit better than that. Start over, Kevin. For this, I'm just going to do a nice seam here, spread it, and then smooth it down. What I really like is trying to tape a seam with gloves on, because it makes the tape stick to the gloves. And it always looks awkward and goofy. Whenever I'm doing video for public consumption, what I like to do is look awkward and goofy. I think that'll be fine. So I'm going to do this side. That's bare there, so we're going to just kind of flirt with that edge of bare steel. Like that. And that will work. I'm going to preemptively put a paper towel under here, because I'm going to use my wax and grease remover to smooth out the seam sealer. That's a old school body guy trick. And I don't want to have to re-clean the bottom part of my bed here. So this will soak it up. That looks like it's going to stay there. Okay, cool. Now, we're using a black seam sealer. You know how I know? Because it says black seam sealer. This is direct to metal. Look right there, see? DTM, whenever you see a DTM designation, that means it's fine to put right on top of properly cleaned steel. If it doesn't have the DTM designation, it probably needs heat coat or some sort of an epoxy or primer or even a braided paint to be able to put it on top of. So here's what we're going to do now. First, I'm going to go around the wheel tubs. And like I said, I'm not going to be really crazy careful about this. I just want to make sure that there's a good moisture barrier in between the welding. I don't even really care what it looks like. It doesn't really matter as long as it does its job, you know. Well, I spoke too soon on that. I'm going to put that up in there. Trailer park. And this is why I wear gloves, doing this. All right. Stay there. It's easier to go top to bottom, I find. screwed up there. Need a little bit more. Come on. There we go. All right. So that, I believe, is going to be good. Because I can't help myself, I'm going to do one more thing. This is what we're going to do in the middle seam as well. So we squirt it with a wax and grease remover. It's not a strong enough solvent to move it off of there, but look what that does. It just looks nicer, right? So I'm going to do that all the way down. Sometimes obsessive-compulsive tendencies help you in your restoration goals. Same thing over here. And do that. Look at that. Nice one, Kevin. All right. If you wait till it's dry, then you got to chisel it off. As much of a mess that it makes when it's wet, it's still the best time to clean up your faux pas. All right, so now we're going to go in and do the big bad boy. I'm not being careful. I'm not worried about if it's pretty. I want enough on there where I can trowel it in. Where it kind of goes on either side of my little tape border. And we're going to stop right about there. Always relieve the pressure off of your caulking gun too. So now we can come back in and we can do one of these. Oh, look at that. A little bit just to fill in the cracks. I said crack. Come on, there we go. You don't even have to be careful at this stage. All right, so we're going to set that over here. And now, I'm going to float it out with the wax and grease remover again. And just kind of smooth it. Get any of the really ugly trowel marks off of there. All that garbage down there. It looks terrible, but it's going to be fine. Now with that smoothed out, we're going to pull the tape. Make sure you have a place to put the tape. I'm going to put the tape on these soiled towels away from my tools because it's going to be loaded up with seam sealer. Now when you're pulling your tape, pull it away from itself. Don't pull it straight out. here we have a nice looking seam, kind of looks factory-ish, but once it's gobbed up with a spray and bed liner, you're never going to see it. And it serves the purpose of keeping moisture from going back into that, that overlap seam in the wheel tub. So that's mission accomplished. I never really like to leave the wax and grease remover to dry on the surface because that's kind of not what you're supposed to do. So I'm going to be very careful and wipe the excess off here, off either side. And try not to touch anything, which I think I just did, but it'll be fine. And there's the tiniest bit of exposed bare metal there, but not enough to affect the adhesion of the spray and bed liner, and that side is done. Now we're going to do rinse and repeat over on this side. And what I'm really hoping right now is that I have enough left in this tube to finish the job. Yeah, I like doing that better. Okay. That way it gets in that seam. I've got a bit larger gap on this side. I don't know why. Oh, I know why. Because Chris did that side and I did this side when he went home. That's why. And the tape is coming up right there. All right, so now, where's my spreader? It's right here. Quit looking, I found it. Oh, that's messy. Doing such a wide seam sets it up for a little bit more of a challenge, but you know, hey. It's all going to be good, okay? Okay. That worked. A little bit more down this side. I don't think I need to apply anymore. I think I've got about a half a gallon too much. No, I'm going to need to apply a little bit more. All right. Just a little bit more down here. And a little bit more down there. And that's got me covered from tape edge to tape edge. Bellissimo. All right, so I'm not going to clean that. I'm just going to throw that one away. Save that one. All right, that guy can go right there. This gets out of here with minimal touching. I like that. And I like, oh man, look at that. All right, got rid of you. And there's another one right here. This goes straight to the trash. All right, again, I'm going to wipe the excess off of here without touching my seam. If you wanted to get really fancy, you can hose that down again with your wax and grease remover and then smooth that shoulder down. Personally, I don't mind the shoulder. And once it's built up with a layer of Bedliner, we're never going to see it anyways. But if it's a seam that's exposed and it really matters, the wax and grease remover as a smoothing agent really does a nice job. So we're going to let that dry, and I'm going to read the back of the tube or go online to the TDS for the sealer and find out how long it takes before it can be coated. So I did the thing where you take the picture of the directions actually on the back of the product, and I'm looking for dry times and when I can paint and coat this stuff. And it shows me application times and some application tips. The only reason I can read it is because I took a picture of it, expanded it in my phone. It does not say anything about application time after dry. So I went to look at the part number right here, 29392 SEM 1K seam sealer, brought up the technical data sheet, the TDS, and it tells me that it remains flexible without shrinking and stretching, paintable without shrinking or cracking, paintable immediately with most solvent-based coatings. So we can, right now, we can paint that. So it's prepped. The bed floor's prepped. I'm going to do some masking around the sides because I don't want to get bed liner on the bed sides. And then we're going to go to town. We're going to put some Raptor on that joker. Get this out of the way. Now this stuff is ridiculously easy to mix. I've shaken it already on my paint shaker. Basically what you do is open it up. This cup comes in the packaging. Here's a hardener for it. Fill your cup up to the line while wearing safety glasses, and pour it into the vessel. I'm going to put this on. Then you just shake it up and shoot it. I suppose I could shake it up in... Oh, there's a good reason to put the cap on and shake it. All right, I'm an idiot. Don't do what I just did. That's why we can't have nice things, Kevin. All right, so put your catalyst in. Let's try to save a step. You can never save a step. All right, so that's also why I wear gloves. So pour, shake, and shoot. We're going to shake it up now. Oh, about a minute or so. See, if you watch these videos, you learn from me. You never have to make your own mistakes. So I know it's going to take more than one, so I'm going to prep 2 of these. You know what I'm also going to do is get rid of this messy spill mat, because it's messy and it's a spill mat. I'm guessing, honestly, that it might take me... For the inside of a bed, I think it takes 5 or 6. But for this, I think 3 or 4 is going to do it. We'll count them and see. All right. With the products shaken thoroughly, my ego is not invested in 100% success rate. All right, so that'll stay there. Now I'm going to suit up the rest of the way, and we're going to spray this stuff on. Spraying is pretty simple. They asked for 2 coats. I've gotten away with 1 heavy coat. This is probably going to be the same, so I'm just going to paint until it's all black. I've got a good contrasting coat in the red. It's going to show me exactly when I've got full coverage.
There we go. I'm liking that.
So with the spray nozzle adjusted for the maximum amount of material output and the widest possible cone, now I can start spraying. Keep in mind that just because this isn't a flat pattern and it's a round cone, that doesn't mean that your spray technique goes out the window. You want to do overlapped passes, 50 to 75% overlap. And for something like this, what I've found that works best is for me to divide it up into chunks or quadrants and then completely finish one and move on to the next section. Rather than jump around and go from border to border or get the edges first, I do complete big squares and then move on to the next complete big square. And although there's not overspray, particularly like paint with this product, you still have to be aware that it's a sprayed and atomized product and wear the proper safety gear. So I was able to get by with just 2 cans. We got great coverage. It looks excellent. Did exactly what I wanted it to do. From the bottom, I can be proud of that. So let that dry. Be done. All right, we're going to check things out. I've let it dry overnight. This is what we got. Overall, I'm very happy with this. It's dry to touch, it's nice and firm, it's set up completely. I think my seams look good, I like that. It looks finished, right? There is a little bit of inconsistency. I'm not gonna lie, it's not perfect. I think the inconsistency is from me only having 1 heavy coat. When I've done these systems inside the bed of a truck and I put 2 coats on like they recommend, it's super, super consistent. It's super satiny and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to chalk it up to that. I don't need that mill thickness under the bottom, and it's never going to see wear like a pickup bed is going to see, so I'm happy with that. So now let's go to the juncture in our program to where we want to fix up this frame. There's not much real estate to deal with here. I'll just clean the gas tank up. I'm not going to paint that. Of course, I'll mask up all the shiny stuff from Ride Tech. It looks good. It's going to take minimal prep. And we're going to get started on it. What I'm going to use for paint is right over here. Oh, almost forgot. If you've got threaded surfaces like this, these bed mounting bolts, make sure that you cover them up, because this U-pole Raptor will get inside the threads and it's a real hard cross-link and you're going to have a hard time. You'll have to chase the threads out. So just keep that in mind. I got this from Exalta Paint, part number 766A, trim black satin. It's a trim black paint. It's designed to go over mirrors, body side moldings, trim pieces, appliques on doors, and it's a very high quality 1K rattle can, non-catalyzed, obviously, 1K paint. And it's going to give us the protection we need, plus a very consistent satin look, and it's safer to use since it doesn't have a catalyst in it, and it's going to do a great job on those frame rails and the rear axle. Now, since this citrus cleaner from Griot's kicked Major Bartholomew on the bottom of the bed floor. I'm going to go back to it. It worked great, so I have no reason to believe it won't work great here. I'm going to try and actually not get it on the powder coat, the Ride Tech stuff. Chase it with the gray scuff pad. I like that. What does that sound? Okay. And we'll come back with the wax and grease remover. And we're going to call that business prep for paint. I think it's just that simple. So that wasn't painful at all. We've got, the rails are cleaned up and I wiped off the top of the tank and stuff like that. I am going to mask some of this stuff. The clamshells, coilovers and stuff, you know, the stuff that I want to look like that, the anodized U-bolts, I'm just going to tidy it up a little bit. When I spray the back sides of the rails, I'll mask the tops or the heads of the nuts on those bolts and it'll just look better. The good thing about a rattle can is that it doesn't produce a whole lot of overspray, and it should be fairly easy to do, right? Right, that's why we use rattle cans. Easy to do. So I'm taking my 1.5 inches, and I'm just going to wrap a couple of lengths, just so I don't get any overspray right on it. On my anodized U-bolts, just going to wrap them, tuck the tape in around it. I'm counting on that the 1.5 inch pattern of the rattle can is not going to go too nuts for overspray. But if I do get any overspray that I don't like, since it's 1K, even if I see it later, I could just wipe it down with some thinner and the overspray will wipe right off. And with this industrial powder coating that's on here, it's not going to hurt getting it wiped down with thinner. Stuff like that. It's kind of about the details. Is anybody ever going to see this truck bed from the top down? Probably not. But I'll know that it looks good. Here's a quick masking hack. I'm just using a piece of stiff paper and just stuffing it under the frame rail and blocking off the overspray from hitting the top of the gas tank. A piece of cardboard also works well for this, and you can use it quite literally as a handheld shield while you're spraying. You see some industrial painters use a flag on a stick. This is basically the same principle as that. Works very well. As long as you're wearing gloves.
All right, so I opened up the doors. Sorry if you can't hear me talk. It's pretty foggy in here, man. I don't know if the doors have been open for a little while. And it's clearing out. But that's why you're going to see me wearing PPE, spraying paint, even with spray can paint. I'm just saying.
So it's been about a half an hour and everything's dry to touch for the most part. So let's untake this stuff and see what we got. See, I'm not even feeling any overspray on that. That'll go away, goes away, goes away. Ah, look at this. Watch. Unpainted. Oh, except for the rubber cap. It's stuck in here. Dang it. Come on, Kevin. Pick it up. There. Okay. Rubber cap. Reinstalled. Okay. Nice detail. Just taping. Ow. That hurt. I particularly want to see how this looks in here. Yeah, just taping the heads of those nuts and bolts there, it just gives it that detail. I don't think anybody's ever going to see inside the framer, like over on this side. There, just a nice detail. But you know what? One of the things that I like about crawling in and out and underneath and touching and doing other stuff is that you get to double check stuff. And if you look at this right here, these guys, they're finger tight. They're just threaded on there. They're nylock nuts with grade 8 hardware. And me and Rodney just forgot. We just forgot to tighten those things up. Let me rephrase that. Rodney forgot to tighten those up. So it's kind of part of the process to where now I can come with a ratchet and a wrench and I can tighten those things up. So it's another good thing. I don't know, it's kind of fun. I'm not going to have much cleanup to do with this, but if you look right over here, right now, I kind of got some spray paint on the back of that cap. Okay, so I got some spray paint on the back of the cap. I'm going to show you how simple it is to clean that up. I mean, you know. And in my preparedness, I put my cleanup thinner in a little bucket. I forgot where I put it. Found it. This is just lacquer thinner, so really all I have to do is just kind of go through here, just wipe it down, you know, and I don't know. I don't even know why I showed you that. It's just really simple. It's just cleaning off overspray. I am going to get it off of this muffler. And I'm also going to have to remind Derek that when he drives this thing, his truck is not on fire. It's just that there's some spray paint burning off the exhaust as it gets pretty hot. So, just note to self, Derek, if you're watching this, remember that. What have I done? Okay. Over-torqued it. Oh, don't get trapped. Don't get trapped. Done that before. Put the box end of the wrench and get it stuck. You guys ever done that? I've seen that meme. We'll just leave that right there for now. Aha! There's another loose one. So while Derek might call that a Craigslist rebuild, I call it a paint job because it's a paint job. It's 3 wet coats of a high quality 1K coating, and it looks really good. Is it a perfect paint job? Is it restoration quality? Well, no, it's not, but it looks really nice. And it complements the satin black powder of the Tetz system. And here's what I used. I used 3 full cans of the 766A from Axalta, and they're all empty. But about can 1.5, I found this guy, and it made a lot nicer time of spraying this, and my finger didn't get fatigued as much. But I want you to see this as well. Can you see that in there behind? Let me pull the cap off. See that little red line right there? Certain spray cans, and of course you guys affirmed this on the spray can video that I did a few months ago, when you aim the outlet or the air cap orifice at that dot, the pickup straw aligns to the bottom and it's curved, and you'll get more material out of this can. So you want to watch for that when you're using rattle cans. Some of them don't have it, but the ones that do, line up your fluid tip with that little marking, and you're going to get more use out of your cans. Of course, I use the Shake Master 4000 and woke up the molecules, and that helps as well. Now, you eagle eyes might have seen that there's some different things on the truck than when we first started this. I've been working on stuff in between videos and making other videos of videos and making videos of the in-between videos. And I want to walk you around to what we've done on the bodywork on this truck. So the back of the cab, yeah, that's just sanded for prep, even though I found some little filler places that need a little bit of filler like that. So the big thing are the sides. Now, I blocked the truck before paint. You saw that on episode 1019. Then I used polyester high build primer. I've just blocked the heck out of that. I'm very happy with that. If you look, you can see the nice consistent shadows, the peaks, the style lines. We've accentuated those with blocking techniques, and this side of the truck is nicely done. When we look at the hood, there's a couple little weirdness pop knots here. We fixed those places, and it was just inconsistency. And right here, everything's nice and blocked down. There was a bit of a lot right there, and it's no longer there. So that is straight and flat. This side has been blocked out. I had to use a little bit of filler here. There was just a weirdness right at this intersection, and I feel really good about this. I've wet checked it, and I mean, you can even see by the shadows that it's nice. So this side of the truck and the tailgate is ready for a 2K urethane primer, which we'll put 2 coats of that on and then final sand it for paint. We're this close for paint on this. Now, in case you're FOMOing on, I'm just talking about the bodywork and the blocking process instead of showing you, I've got the whole bed. 2 bed sides with super complex shapes, exactly the same as this. Big flat panels, indentation here, OBS styling, this style line here. I will walk you through the process of blocking that because it's super important. It's really important when you want a straight flat paint job to have a straight flat body. I said it and I'll say it again. The paint job, the spray job, is the reward that we give ourselves for doing all the hard work underneath. And that is the body work and the blocking. So Z sled with a pickup bed, guess what? This is exactly the process I used on Z sled. So that brings us to the juncture of this. I just want to say thank you for watching. Take one more look at that. It just looks really nice, man. There's a couple little things we're going to do. I've got the vent tube for the differential. I've got a mount. I'm going to put it on one of those bolts over there. But we're going to say El Dono on this. So thanks for watching, and we've got more content coming your way on Paintucation by Kevin Tetz. We appreciate you. See you next video.